Previously on Hunting Hitler.
What intrigues me is Paraguay. Even if half of those sightings are accurate, he's doing something up there.
Según la historia, Hitler apareció también acá en la Colonia Independencia, porque hay rumores de que existía también escondite, ellos eran protegidos.
I mean, we gotta find this place. Look at this fence. Why do you need that out here? What's that right there? Yeah, walls are very thick. They're thick enough to stop a bullet. This might be a guard shack. From this one position alone, you could almost lock down this valley. This is where Adolf Hitler can stay safe and secure and move his plans forward for the Fourth Reich.
We have been collecting evidence for 3 years. I never thought we would get this far.
CIA veteran Bob Baer and former terrorist targeting officer Neda Bakos are using an asset mapping strategy, following the known assets of Adolf Hitler to determine where he could have gone after World War II.
Look at these photographs.
They review the findings from Salto Suizo, Paraguay, where declassified files and an eyewitness report led the team to a potential hideout for Hitler deep in the jungle.
Look at this compound we found in Paraguay. I mean, that place is defensible. There's just simply no way you're going to get in there and surprise anybody. We've got completely controlled access. We've got cliffs on all sides. There's only one road in, and it's blocked off by this guardhouse. I mean, most people do not build guardhouses around their compound.
This compound clearly fits all the parameters that we were looking for.
Yes, all of these things would serve somebody like Adolf Hitler, and he could spend years living in this house and in this compound, and no one would know the better. The problem is the Nazis are not running operations out in the middle of nowhere. This place is too small, too provincial. If you're building the Fourth Reich, you need access to personnel, communications, and transportation to actually run operations with money, and the rest of it's got to be somewhere else.
Right.
So where are they operating out of? Let's do a search and see what we got. Look at this. CIA, Nazi war criminals, espionage network in Latin America. Latin America was parceled out among various agents. Walter Rauff was assigned Chile and Joseph Mengele, Paraguay. This is crucial because there's an organization here, there's a structure. They've divided up South America, trusted SS officers that know what they're doing, and they're in South America not hiding, but organizing. This is a huge piece of the story because it tells me those Nazi communities in South America, they're a bunch of cells, and they were connected by these senior leaders. Walter Rauff in Chile and Joseph Mengele in Paraguay, they've divided up the Fourth Reich in South America. Walter Rauff, SS officer, designed mobile gas chambers responsible for the death of 100,000 people during the Holocaust. His whole life was about making murder efficient.
This guy was a huge danger to humanity.
Earlier in the investigation, we determined with a fair amount of certainty Walter Rauff was connected with Colonia Dignidad.
Colonia Dignidad is a secretive place in the middle of nowhere in Chile. It's not a question of if Nazis were there, it's what were they doing there.
Hasta se fabrica armamento.
This is major. This is like a country within a country where they can do anything they want.
Y en los cuales el que supervisaba todo era Paul Schaeffer. También Walter Rauff.
At Colonia Dignidad, you've got security, tunnels and bunkers, reinforced communications equipment. It's a big military camp. Rauff is clearly a major player in the Fourth Reich. If he's the Nazi in charge of Chile, what else was he doing that we don't know about? If we can figure out what Rauff was up to, we're going to get to the beating heart of the Fourth Reich.
Was it 86?
That's what it said.
U.S. Army Green Beret Mike Simpson and former U.S. Marshals Commander Lanny DePaul land in Santiago, Chile.
Hello, sir.
Hi.
They meet with Pedro Mata, a professor at Trinity College who specializes in Latin American history, to better understand Walter Rauff's role in Chile after World War II.
We wanted to talk specifics with respect to a guy by the name of Walter Rauff.
Walter Rauff was a very important part of Colonia Dignidad.
I was at Colonia Dignidad, and of course, on the surface, Paul Schaefer was the man in charge. But everything that I've seen in my investigation has led me to believe that Walter Rauff was the one pulling the strings there.
Absolutely. Not only that, Walter Rauff was also behind DINA.
What was DINA?
DINA was an organization that was set up by people coming from the military and some civilians as well. And the only objective of DINA was to destroy all opposition. We are talking about the police state, focusing in controlling population as far as it was needed.
Formed under fascist dictator of Chile, Augusto Pinochet, DINA was a secret police force started in 1973. Its role was to silence all opposition, often using extreme violence, similar to the tactics of the Nazis.
DINA sounds just like the Gestapo.
Doesn't sound like the Gestapo, it is the Gestapo. They're not just reenacting the Nazi methodology in Germany, they're extending it. This continued right here in Chile. Walter Rauff brought that Nazi playbook right here.
This is the National Archive.
Pedro was able to get us into these archives where apparently no one has ever seen these documents. They were just recently released about 2 months ago. So it is extremely important that we see this stuff. We need to find out fully what the vision was for Walter Rauff's Fourth Reich plans.
Bueno, aquí están.
These are related to the Nazi spy ring that functioned in Chile during the Second World War.
Page 1. Wow. No Nazi Germans. All wearing a swastika, look at this. What were so many Nazis doing in Chile? They were setting the table for something. I mean, some of these photos, they're marching, they're just not here collecting data and going to church.
What were they training for?
They were training to expand their level of influence and at the level of government as well. One of the goals of this spy rig during the Second World War was to try to destroy the Panama Channel.
So they had plans to blow up the Panama Canal?
Yes.
Jeez, if that happened, they would have crippled the Americans.
That's right.
Unbelievable. The Nazis right here in Chile were going to take out the Panama Canal. And that was U.S. territory. Into the 70s, they were going to attack us on our own soil.
It talks about that they were setting up communication nodes, communication networks. Communications, if you're going to run a spy network, that is always key.
Yeah, you see some of these photos, you can see some of the radios. Wow.
Some of the transmission equipment to get in touch and to report to the main base.
So they had comms throughout all of South America,
Absolutely,
if needed.
yes.
It's pretty easy to control the entire country of Chile if you got radios, you're talking to each other, there's communications going on.
I was at Colonia Dignidad and I saw the tower that they have there with the radio antenna.
Wow.
We're about just shy of 3,000 feet up off the valley floor.
That antenna had the capacity to connect all over South America. There also was a transmission antenna in Villa Grimaldi, the most important torture and disappearance center in Chile.
I thought Colonia Dignidad was an isolated thing.
Oh, no.
There was another camp.
Oh, 754 so far as we know.
754 camps?
Yes.
Wow.
You have torture centers almost in every city of this country.
Unbelievable.
Up until now, I had firmly believed that Colonia Dignidad was an isolated incident.
The mere idea that there were as many as 754 copies of Colonia Dignidad, it's just mind-boggling. This was Nazism in its purest and most evil form. This goes much deeper than we'd ever imagined.
Look what we found in Chile. These guys down here are planning to blow up the Panama Canal. The Nazis were a lot closer to attacking us from Latin America than they were from Europe.
Bob and Neda review the findings from the team in Santiago, Chile, where a declassified CIA document reports that Nazi war criminal Walter Rauff may have been overseeing an operation to prepare Chile for a Nazi Fourth Reich.
We know that Ralph was actually leading the DINA secret police. So they were using the Nazi skill set to control the population and to achieve whatever they wanted.
Don't you find this just like appalling? That a mass murderer, Walter Rauff, a wanted Nazi, is running the secret police of an allied country. Not only that, we have reports of almost 800 military camps in Chile. I mean, 800 camps? What were they doing? If you look at Colonia Dignidad, it was a fortress in Chile. What were they doing with the 800 other camps? We don't know. We got into Colonia Dignidad, and it was amazing what we found there. They're making arms. They could have made biochemical weapons. They were training. I mean, I was astounded. I had no idea that this sort of Nazi camp existed in South America. But now we're talking about 800 camps.
Imagine the power that they would have had in South America if they had 800 Colonia Dignidads. We need to find someone who can tell us more about what's happening in these camps.
Yeah, you're right. The question is, were these camps all connected and coordinating? There could have been Nazi camps set up across Chile, run by SS officers that would give them infrastructure to create the Fourth Reich.
After seeing just how horrendous it was firsthand in Colonia Dignidad, you don't want to believe that something that terrible can be widespread.
Mike Simpson and Lenny DePaul land in Iquique, Chile, to investigate the capabilities of the camps spread across Chile after World War II.
We know that Colonia Dignidad was literally one of the most evil places in the world. And up until now, I had firmly believed that Colonia Dignidad was an isolated incident. But I'm shocked to hear that it was not, that there were as many as 754 camps. So now the question is, what was the specific planning and implementation of the Fourth Reich in these camps?
The team makes contact with Hector Pavlik, who was imprisoned at one of these camps, along with his family.
Héctor, ¿cómo está? Tomás, mucho gusto.
Nice to meet you.
Mucho gusto, señor.
Hola. We appreciate his time and tell him thanks for coming out to talk to us. We very much appreciate it.
Agradecen su tiempo.
Vale, pues. Cuando ustedes digan.
We understand you spent some time in camp.
He was detained on the 11th of September on the 73. He was a prisoner with his father, and after that with his mother.
How old was he?
He was 22.
Okay.
How long was he in the camp?
He was 8.5 months in Pisagua.
So Pisagua was the name of the camp?
Sí, Pisagua era el nombre del campo.
When he says camp, is it like a prison, or what exactly went on there?
So the first thing when they arrived at the camp, it was like beatings. Like they just beat them up. They had them locked down and tortured. The camp had the presence of German Nazis.
German Nazis. I mean, who was it?
El Walter Rauff, que era el que funcionaba allá en el sur.
Walter Rauff, who was the guy who was in charge of everything.
Unbelievable. And he was torturing this man.
This is major because this confirms, and this was all part of a larger network, Colonia Dignidad and this camp were related and both under the command of Walter Rauff. And this was not an isolated incident we uncovered previously. This was a network.
Wow.
Walter Rauff had a lot to do with these camps. How much do you know about the level of control that he had on the camps, how much he participated in what went on there day to day, and how many of these camps he might have been supervising?
No sé.
I need to see Pisagua. We need to see it. Would it be possible for you to take us there?
Quiere ver si es posible que tú nos lleves a Pisagua para conocer.
And I know what I'm asking you is very difficult.
Ni un problema.
If he's still alive, is to tell what happened. So he would be happy to take you.
I appreciate your courage.
Walter Ruff had a game plan. He's here for something. He's not sitting here running prisons because he wants to be a warden. He's looking at a Fourth Reich. There's a plan in place. But to fully understand what Walter Ruff wanted to do, Mike and I need to get to Pisagua and see what's going on there.
Look at this place, huh?
We're literally at the end of the world.
Following a declassified CIA file claiming that SS officer Walter Rauff was overseeing the Nazi Fourth Reich in Chile, Mike, Lenny, and their translator Thomas traversed the Atacama Desert towards Pisagua prison camp, accompanied by Hector Pavlich, a political dissident who spent 2 years imprisoned at this camp.
As a minimum, there were 754 camps here in Chile. This uncovers a whole new aspect to the Fourth Reich that we had never seen before.
What were they doing?
Wow.
This is like a black site prison where you send people to disappear.
Ahí está.
That's where they built the barracks for the camp.
So this is right here, right? Right here.
The barracks were made for the prisoners. He only saw the sunlight for like 15 days.
Aquí habían emplazamiento de ametralladoras para controlar el campo.
So in this area, they have machine guns put up to like control the camp.
Follow the Nazi blueprints. Look at that.
When they first brought you to the camp, where was the exact spot where they unloaded you?
Right in front of the jail.
Would he mind taking us down there to get a closer look?
Sí, ningún problema.
Hector leads the team to the camp's central jail, a quarter-mile below the machine gun overlook.
Cell block area here?
Yes.
Three stories high.
So how many people were in prison here?
Unos 1,400.
Wow. That's just mind-boggling, just even picturing that much humanity crammed into this small space, using the same Nazi tradecraft, just rounding them up, putting them in camps.
Nos paraban acá antes de empezar a llevarnos a las celdas.
So they made them stand here before carrying them to the cells.
Why?
They took their name away, and he became number 14.
They wouldn't even use your name. You were just number 14.
Sí.
This looks more and more like a Nazi prison camp in every way. From the layout to the way they process the prisoners, numbering and dehumanizing, everything's there.
This is the route they made them walk to get to the barracks for torture, blindfolded, tied up.
The team heads 500 yards to the location of the former prison barracks.
What did they do to you?
Nos torturaban, te aplicaban la corriente, nos colgaban. Los torturadores eran los especialistas.
They had practically like a lab with different torture systems. Terrible things here.
It's like the Nazis years ago.
Yeah, it's all the same. It's their manual.
When he was being tortured in one of the first barracks here, when he was tied up like this, they hit him with a stick. The blindfold moved up, and he saw on his right the Nazi flag, on his left the Chilean flag.
Nazi flag. Doesn't get any more plain than that.
Carrying their colors. What we're seeing here in Pisagua is starting to remind us more and more of what a Nazi concentration camp looks like.
It's all about control.
They want to silence the opposition. If you opposed anything that this regime was trying to incorporate, you came here to one of these camps and you suffered. They're not only taking pages from the Nazi playbook, they're flying their flag. The ultimate price for no cooperation.
Hector leads the team to the westernmost edge of the compound, the site of a massive graveyard.
Look at this. Oh my God.
Esta es la fosa donde encontramos a los fusilados de Pisagua.
It's a mass grave where he personally found the bodies of the people that were executed in Pisagua.
All right here.
Yes. People that no one knew where they ended, they were found here.
I'm immediately reminded of the mass graves, Auschwitz, Dachau, Terezin, all those places that the Nazis would just line them up and put bullets in the back of their heads and just push them in and push the dirt over. The way they brought them in, the way they numbered them, the way they split them up, the way they dehumanized them, tortured them, right up until the way they disposed of them. Like they were nothing, like they weren't even human beings. This philosophy made it halfway around the world and grew roots here. A Nazi-style concentration camp flying a Nazi flag.
That whole Nazi ideology just continued on after the war.
These were not Nazis who had escaped to South America to live out their days in obscurity. They were brazen, they were open, spreading their ideology and cultivating a Fourth Reich with what appears to be a violent, iron-fisted control of the opposition, and even the most dangerous weapon, mass murder.
That whole Nazi ideology, it just got uplifted from Germany and set down right here in Chile.
Yeah, just different coat of paint on it, different language.
After investigating a remote torture camp run by high-ranking Nazi Walter Rauff, who could have been responsible for Fourth Reich operations in Chile,
Aplicaban la corriente, los torturadores eran los especialistas.
Lenny and Mike land outside of Santiago, where they prepare to make contact with an anonymous informant, the grandson of a Nazi war criminal who previously shared thousands of never-before-seen documents with Tim and Gerard in Buenos Aires.
We understand that you have documents that detail the movements of Nazis in Argentina post-war.
Correct.
I've not seen documents like this before. These are proof of these Nazis coming into the country.
This informant has now agreed to meet the team in Chile and has told them that he has potentially history-changing documents connected to Walter Rauff and the Fourth Reich in Chile.
He's a credible source.
And we've vetted everything he's given us, and everything he's given us so far has been completely correct.
Now we'll see what he knows about Chile.
Yeah, I guess this is it.
The team arrives at a private home where the informant, along with his translator Philippe, has arranged to meet them under the condition that his identity be protected.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
We appreciate you taking some time to come and speak to us again.
Es un placer para mí recibirlo.
It's a pleasure for me to receive you.
Well, it's very much appreciated. What can you tell us specifically about Walter Rauff operating in Chile?
Tengo documentos importantes a Rauff.
These are some of the last documents written in Nazi Germany.
How did he get his hands on these?
A family related to Rauff.
You received these from his family?
Correcto.
Yes.
¿Quieren que les muestre? Les muestro.
Certainly.
Me encantaría.
What is this?
¿Qué es esto?
Estos son unos negativos fotográficos de documentos importantes.
Well, this is the last will, the last personal will of Adolf Hitler.
Hitler's last will and testament.
Why are they here in Chile?
These are like microfilm. And just looking at the first one, you can see on this, there's the eagle and swastika right at the top.
Yeah.
I don't speak German, if you can give us a translation.
Adolf Hitler says that he wants every German, every man, every woman, every soldier of the Wehrmacht. Our task is the expansion of the National Socialist state and the fight against the poison of the world, as he says. Written and signed in Berlin, April 29, 1945, at 4 o'clock.
There it is in black and white.
Right here before us are the most important Nazi documents. In the age before computer files, microfilm was a way to shrink down documents and make them easier to carry. I've long known of the existence of these documents, but to see the actual microfilm, it's chilling.
On April 29, 1945, the day before he reportedly committed suicide, Adolf Hitler called his secretary into his office in the Führer bunker and asked her to type up an important document, his last will and testament. Reportedly, 3 copies of the document were sent by courier out of the Führer bunker, intended for Hitler's associates. All 3 copies were intercepted by the Allies in the days following.
We've always assumed that there were only 3 because we captured 3. But what I'm wondering is if there were more.
Was there a 4th copy?
We might be looking at it right now.
These documents leave the Führer bunker and end up in Chile. Is that what you're saying?
Sí, correcto. Era una operación totalmente secreta, por eso había que escapar con los documentos a Chile.
But this is one of the highest secrets.
Uno de los secretarios de la SS de Hitler que escapó con documentación importante.
That was one of the last groups escaping from the Hitler bunker.
It's here for a reason.
Yeah. It's not just to have a copy of it.
Right. What were they thinking? What was their mindset? Let's bring Adolf Hitler's ideologies to Chile, or did Hitler himself come here? Huge piece of the puzzle for us, huh?
It's no coincidence that these documents, the last thing Hitler touched before he reportedly committed suicide, traveled the exact same route that we have used to track Hitler. It not only is proof that his escape route was possible, but also for the members of the Fourth Reich, these documents would have been the equivalent of the Ark of the Covenant. This would have been their template, their way forward for the Fourth Reich.
For some reason, Chile was chosen as the ultimate destination. This isn't all coincidental.
Here's the last words of Adolf Hitler in the bunker on the 29th of April. For some unexplained reason, shows up in Chile.
Bob and Neda review the findings from Chile, where the team made a groundbreaking discovery, a potential photo negative of a never-before-seen 4th copy of Adolf Hitler's last will and testament.
So you can see the colors, so that confirms that
It's polyester.
this is polyester, yeah.
The team brought in a local expert who was able to confirm the authenticity of the negative, dating to the end of World War II.
I mean, this takes us back to ground zero, the last time we know that Hitler was alive. After the 29th, there was still stuff coming out of the bunker, and this is evidence of it. What else got out of the bunker? Somehow a copy was smuggled out from Hitler's hand to Chile, which tells me Hitler clearly had a rat line out of Germany to South America, and it worked very well. You're not going to get a more direct connection than that.
The fact that this was in Chile and it made its way out of the bunker signifies to me that the network was alive and well. They were using this document to continue to spread the propaganda. This isn't just Hitler's last will and testament. I mean, this was his manifesto.
Yeah, if you are going to go make the Fourth Reich, you need a Bible, and it's right here. You can see that the Nazis were starting to spread and take root.
After a year-long investigation focused on deconstructing Adolf Hitler's network around the globe, Bob and Neda review their findings.
So I think this network approach really helped define and fill in the picture around Hitler and narrowed in on how he could have escaped.
I agree with you. The network approach has paid off. Hitler easily could have gotten out of Europe, and he easily could have made it to South America.
And we found multiple redundancies in these escape routes. We found a strong northern route and a strong southern route so that if one fell, he could fall back onto the other.
Freaking seaplane! Holy! What is this doing here? The plane could fly all the way from Europe into Argentina, where we know there are a dense population of high-ranking Nazis.
Not only that, Hitler had protection every place he would have transited.
Behind that door, you would find a total of 3.5 miles of underground tunnels, 400 feet of solid rock above you right there.
That's enough to stop a nuclear bomb. From this one position alone, you could lock down this valley. This is where Adolf Hitler could stay safe and secure.
He had the protection of fortified compounds, and he had the protection of world leaders, from Franco, Perón, Stroessner, to the Vatican.
There's documentation. The priest at the time would rebaptize Nazis fleeing through the area.
This is where they were born again and assumed a new identity.
And it's not just the political leader support. He's got support of all these loyal associates to help him establish safe haven and setting up clear plans for him to escape.
Kaltenbrunner's up here kind of waiting to be the fall guy.
Meanwhile, everyone else, including possibly Adolf Hitler himself, is using all these better routes to get out of here.
The ship manifest him. Last name on the list, Joseph Mengele, Auschwitz's angel of death.
You look at the infrastructure, you look at the assets he had available. There has never been an escape network of this size ever that I know of in history. It's amazing. Using asset mapping, I'm more confident than ever that he could have made it to South America and lived out his life and led the Fourth Reich. But beyond that, the evidence all points to one route. I'm pretty certain I know the exact route Adolf Hitler took when he left Germany and exactly where he ended up. Now, I believe that this evidence we have of Hitler's route out is good enough to have somebody on the outside to take a look at it. We spent 3 years pressure testing the unclassified documents and all these Nazi facilities. Now it's time to have somebody pressure test our investigation. We never expected a Hollywood ending to this. There was going to be no finding Adolf Hitler in his uniform, putting him in jail for life. But what we wanted to get at was find enough evidence that you could put it in front of a jury and get a conviction. Only it wouldn't be a conviction, it would be, yeah, the guy got away, or he didn't get away. It's the only way we can bring this to closure. And to do that, we have to put this evidence to the test. In my mind, there's only one thing left to do. I want to take it outside of this room and take it to the FBI. I want to know if we have evidence hard enough to say we think this guy got away. In the CIA, we gather evidence. And the FBI is a law enforcement organization. Intelligence agencies collect intelligence and give it to the FBI to decide whether they have enough evidence to pursue it. From an intelligence perspective, this is the way it's done, and this is what we're doing. We have evidence that he got out. We have evidence of a route. We are ready to prove our case. We have been working around the clock for 3 years. We've had dozens and dozens of people on the ground. We have followed up every lead on Hitler's disappearance. And I think we finally put together this thread of the escape route. And now I need to know whether I'm right or wrong.
After a 3-year-long investigation to uncover the true fate of Adolf Hitler at the end of World War II, CIA veteran Bob Baer has decided to put his theory to the test by presenting his evidence to one of the nation's most seasoned manhunters, retired FBI agent Bobby Chacon.
Bobby, how you doing?
Good, thanks.
Going to the FBI is the way it's done. Intelligence agencies collect intelligence and give it to the FBI to decide whether they have enough evidence to arrest somebody. Let me start out by telling you where I'm coming from. We started with 700 FBI reports. We expanded it to intelligence services all around the world. After 3 years of doing this investigation, I'm convinced Hitler could have gotten out. I think we found a route.
Really?
So, I think this is explosive, but I've always been reluctant to take this outside of the room because you know as well as I do, we were verging on conspiracy theory.
Right. Well, let's look at what you've got. Let's look at what's come up with, and we can go from there.
The escape route starts in Berlin at his Fuhrer bunker. There are multiple exits out of this bunker, but we found an exit that was previously unknown, the 5th exit.
Recently, I found an exit into a new tunnel, very close to the bunker.
Are you kidding me? Now Hitler's got another way out.
Hitler could have gotten out using a tunnel leading to a makeshift runway where we have authenticated documents corroborating the evidence.
Boom, he's on this makeshift runway and he's gone.
I've spent a career doing exfiltrations, and that's the way I would do it. It's a brilliant plan.
So you have a smaller plane possibly taking him where?
From Berlin, he takes a short flight to a secure location, Hohenlohe, Germany.
Look at the size of this massive structure.
This is the size of a small town.
Hohenlohe, at this point, is not going to be bombed because it's a hospital. So putting Hitler there is a smart move. And then we have eyewitnesses and documents putting Hitler in the same place, Hohenlohe.
Hitler came to visit when she was working there in Hohenlohe, and she had to take off Hitler's coat. He was here more than once.
But by this point in the war, there's no way that Germany's not going to completely fall. So what he has to do is find a friendly country. Where do we go next? You look at Norway. Norway is a place controlled by Nazis, and that's all you need to know. Because every time we have a potential to put Hitler in a country, the central government is in the control of pro-Nazis.
On the southern tip of Norway, we have these lining the coast. You have a choke point. Nobody can get in and out. So we're talking 1945, after the fall of Berlin. So what are they protecting here?
Narvik served as headquarters for the command of all U-boats in Norway. Narvik was bombed as late as May 4th. We cannot figure out why it was bombed. There's no record. I mean, the war is over. I mean, supposedly Hitler's dead.
You think they somehow had word he might be there?
And I don't like to jump to conclusions, but you have to wonder. We dove where the Allies bombed on May 4th, and we find a U-boat and a seaplane side by side.
We have eyes on a Nazi U-boat.
And then we find a document saying the Nazis are refueling seaplanes in the middle of the ocean with U-boats. These U-boats are serving as mobile gas stations in the middle of the Atlantic. That solves the problem of Hitler easily and quickly getting to South America. So he gets to South America, and where does he go? Where does he feel safe? And this is my favorite part of the stories, is a compound called Misiones. Misiones is the crown jewel in this plan. You've got a Nazi compound in the middle of nowhere.
This feels like military barracks.
Evidence of troops being up there, guard shacks. Plus, he's got the political protection of Juan Perón, the president of Argentina. Have you ever seen in your career a compound like this, ever?
Never. The person that resided here didn't want to be seen.
But that's not the end of the story. Perón falls in 55, and suddenly your compound is put in peril. Where do you go? You go to Paraguay. We've got Stroessner, who's in charge of Paraguay, and he was an open Nazi. He's in power until '89, way beyond the natural life of Adolf Hitler. Yeah, in Paraguay, we find Misiones 2.0, another Nazi compound called Salto Suizo. It's isolated. It's got approaches that can be guarded.
This could be a perfect spot for an ambush.
It's got buildings that look like guard shacks. Hitler could have been safe there forever. This is the final piece of the puzzle. I think this is explosive. Like I said, I didn't think this was even conceivable. But I do believe now that he could have gotten out of the bunker in the last days. He could have been put on a seaplane, and he could have been taken to South America. What do you think?
I'm impressed. I've worked cases that have been cold a long time, and what you've done here is you completely revived the case. This is no longer a cold case. To me, these are hot leads, and you're right on his trail. I've chased a lot of fugitives in my career, and ultimately I caught them with less of a trail than you have here. If we were sitting here 3 years after the war in a time frame where Hitler was still alive, and you presented me with all the work that your team has done on this case, I would get a team of FBI agents ready to travel to South America and to go get the guy.
What you had to say, I suspected, but was sort of afraid to say it. No, it's great. I love it. I love it. We have officially shot down the narrative that Hitler died in the bunker. It's simply a historical bias that people live with. It's lies we like to tell ourselves to make us feel better. You always doubt the official narrative, and I think we've blown holes in this thing from A to Z. But this case is by no means closed. Find me a body.